Here is the situation that happened with this particular client. Welcome to the Sabrina AI operating room. This is the after hours edition. And for those people who've never been to the operating room, here's how we flow and glow, talking about how do we optimize the software, how do we use best business practices to enhance the notary service. So today we're going to talk about acting as the help desk. This topic is particularly beneficial for notary business owners. I'm going to break down a couple of topics and these points I want to make about why it's important that you are not the person who's doing everything. This is something that is basically is core to our function, and it really sets you apart from the competition that's out there. You really make a difference from the other people who basically do everything in an operation. And I'm going to tell you why it's a big disadvantage when you are the one who do everything. And this is going to be a really good case study as to why you answer the phone the way you do, why you outsource the way you do, and why you present your business to the public in the manner in which you do it. You always want to create the separation between yourself and the actual practitioners, the contractors or the notaries that are going out and doing the work. You never want to show that you're the person that's behind the screen. All right, so I'm going to show you the reasons why you outsource the work, and then I'm going to give some real life examples with one of my notaries that happened, and also present a scenario that you may find yourself in, and what I did about it. So the stamp and go is the appointment where you give the assignment to the notary, right? They say nothing. Literally show up to the appointment. Obviously, you're going to exchange pleasantries. You're going to introduce yourself, say hi to the cat, compliment the house. After that, outside of the normal exchange of words, collecting the information, and being courteous to the client, don't say a word about the document, about anything related to the company, about payment. You don't say nothing. You stamp the document and then you go. Shout out to Tiger Toledo for coming up with this concept. The reason why we do it this way, and we strongly suggest you do it this way, is because you want to limit your liability. And I'm not talking about you specifically. This is what you tell the notary. You tell them, don't say a word. Keep quiet. I don't care if they ask you what your daughter's name is and how you know, we say that jokingly, but it limits your liability. We know how smart and intelligent each of you are. This is not to say that you don't know what you're saying or you don't know what you're talking about or how knowledgeable you are. When we say we want to limit your liability, it's really to protect you. It's really so you can avoid being in a situation that's totally unnecessary. We want to keep you out of these stupid, unnecessary situations where a client says, you said, he said, she said, they said, and you didn't say that. Notaries have this terrible tendency to over talk and to overshare their knowledge. The more you share, the more you can get in trouble. You know how the Miranda rights say you have a right to remain silent? Isn't that what they say? You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can be used against you in the court of law. The same thing applies here. When you start sharing what this client could have done or what it should have done or all your extensive experience and knowledge, that gives to the person who isn't familiar with all of which of what they're doing, that gives them ideas. And now the fact that you're sharing information, they want to now, they see that you're open to sharing information, they're going to start asking you more questions. So this is why you want to avoid your liability. You don't want to give the client the green light. That's why we say that. Don't share. You always want to put everything back onto the home office. Anytime a question comes up, any question that the client has or you have, anything you're unsure about, always refer back to the home office. Excuse yourself from the room. Tell them that you're going to contact your boss, your supervisor, the home office, whatever you got to say. Now, here's the tricky part. This can be done even if you pretend to step outside and call somebody and then you just come back and make the decision yourself. I've done that plenty of times where I'm the person who take the phone call, I'll secure the client, do all the deals, the payments, and then I go out and execute the notary appointment. The client will ask me a question, and again, to create the separation between myself and the business and the company, I'll tell the client, "Hey, hang on for a second. I'm gonna go talk to my. I'm gonna call my office, and then I'm gonna find out the question for you. Give me one moment." And I'll excuse myself from the table. I'll step outside, and I'll go to my car or just step outside the office in the hallway, and I won't even say anything. I won't even call anybody. I won't do anything. I'll just come back like in 3, 4, 5 minutes and just say, "Hey, I talked to my boss, and here's the deal." You always want to make it seem like you're backed by somebody. You are never the person who's making all the decisions. The reason why, again, to limit your liability, but to take that even further, once the client sees that it is you who's able to make all the decisions, that you are the boss, you are the CEO, then now they give this impression, they have this right, this internal right that now, oh, you're the person making all the decisions. Okay, well, I can just ask you. How come you can't just make up your mind right now? How come I can't just get an answer straight from you? That's what you always want to make it seem like. This is above my pay grade. This is above my head. What you're asking is above me. I have to go and get approval for this first, because now you can deliver the bad news and it's not all on you. You can blame it on somebody else. And just so you guys know, if you ever find yourself in a situation where, let's say, somebody wants to speak to somebody, just call me or call Tiger. He's really good at this. I've done this. I can share at least 2 times where I've put him on speaker and he just talked through something, like right there on the spot. At one particular time, we were doing a not translation, a travel consent. We were doing a minor travel consent form where I met this client in a parking lot. I'll never forget this. And I said, "Hey, let me call my boss real quick." And then I just called Tiger and I said, "Hey man, can you act as my boss real quick?" And then he just did it. No prompting, no nothing. He just answered the question, because you always want to make it seem like this is a big corporation. You never want to be by yourself, okay? So let's get into the situation. This is what happened recently. So I got a call from a client, and this guy was clearly price shopping. This client was clearly calling around trying to see if he can get the cheapest price. And you know me, I am definitely not the cheapest price. And he understood that. So he just kept going back and he was like, "Man, how much is it?" Like, damn, 136? I mean, it's just one signature. Like the document you're signing is none of my business. I don't care. It's 136 for you to go out for this particular time. So I'm not gonna go into all the stuff about how I knew that he was shopping around. It's just that he called me once, and then the next day he called me back, and I didn't know if it. I mean, I knew it was him, and The reason why I knew it was him because number one, the number is still the same, but this is again a reason why you should always have consistent call script. Because I started doing the call script, the who, what, where, and I remember he responded as if he had already heard it. He's, the whole, who signed the document. He's like, I am. I'm signing it for my mother. She's doing a grant deed transfer, whatever it was. Anyway, he drew up something. He drafted up a document, and then he wanted to have it signed and notarized. Starting to see it a lot, especially with elderly people starting to pass away, especially in this place in Oakland where the real estate is really expensive. Boomers are retiring and dying, so people are avoiding lawyers and they're drafting up documents themselves. I'll save the story for another time. But anyway, he he didn't book it the first time around. He called back around, and I know the reason why. I know people. I know people. They call my company. They may hear how much it costs, and then that might turn them off because they didn't expect it to be that much. What ends up happening next is that they call another notary, and then the next notary interrogates them. I know this for a fact. I know I'm so 100% confident that this happens, because this person will then call me back, and all of a sudden the price is no longer an issue. I wonder why. Because they spoke to another notary, and that person interrogated them to death because what he was trying to do, it wasn't complicated, it wasn't illegal. It's just that this guy had no idea what he was doing. He he needed a document notarized. That's all that you needed to understand. As far as what's going on with the family situation, the mom's dying and they got this house that's paid for and they just want to get it transferred. That, as far as that, see, when you start really, when these customers really start breaking down what they're doing and why they need a document, that's when notaries get scared. Everything is illegal. I mean, everything's legal. Everything's on the up and up. Everything's good. It's just that you can easily talk yourself out of appointments if you start interrogating people as to what they're doing and why they're doing it. And it's none of your business, really. So this guy showed up to my notary, contracted out to go and sign his document. And about 50 minutes before the appointment started, he called back just to make sure that somebody was going to come out at 6 o'clock to go and do the document. As you can see, the timestamp says 6:06. So my notary was late. And I'm going to save this for another topic, but this guy's been late to a lot of appointments. Even though it's only 6 minutes, this is not good. You know, considering what we charge, we expect you to be early, and this is not good. He's done this enough times. Never mind. I'm gonna say that for another time. But so anyway, he called me about 15 minutes before the appointment, and he was just making sure that somebody's gonna come out. So I know that this guy was just really on high alert. So that's why when the notary arrived, I immediately followed up with, "Hey man, if he asks any questions, don't answer." I just wanted to remind him this notary is really good. I really like working with him. His availability is A1, but I just wanted to remind him, hey man, we've had these conversations. Don't talk. Don't talk. Don't say anything. If he asks some questions, redirect him to us. And he says, okay. So he gets to the appointment, and now he sends another message that says, hey, they're looking for their identification, and I'm not sure if they'll find it. This was about maybe 15 minutes in. So I respond and I say, I don't even like waste time. I immediately respond and say, okay, tell him he can always reschedule. So I'm coaching this notary through this whole situation. Tell him that he can always reschedule. And I know this guy was really a type A type of person. I can tell that. I'm not sure what he did for a living, but I can tell that he was a real type of alpha type of individual. His personality was very alpha. It probably doesn't take a lot of reasoning, and you know, he probably likes to be the one who's talking most of the time. in whatever line of work or whatever dynamic relationship that he's in. He probably does a lot of the talking. And I just got that vibe from him because he was, you know, he was really like, oh man, like, hey man, I don't have a lot of time. Can you please do this? Can you do this? Can you do that? That's why I know that he called other notaries, and other notaries were probably turned off by him, but not me. You know what I mean? Because I know how to communicate. I know how to talk to clients. So that's why I said, hey, if he asks anything, don't feel pressured to answer him. And I know that given that guy's personality, I can see how a notary could feel pressured. Just tell him to call us, or you call us. So he can't find his ID. So shocking, right? This guy can't find his ID, and it had already been like 15 minutes, or at least it had been 10 minutes, given the fact that he got there about 6:06. So he called me about 6:15, or this notary sent me a text message, and I said, okay, tell him that he can always reschedule. He may book. This is a typo. He may book a standby / on-call appointment. You will contact the office on his behalf so that they don't charge him. Leave if you have to. So I'm basically telling my notary that if he can't find his ID, don't stay there. Just leave. Tell him that you have to go. It's already 6 o'clock. It's already 6:20, 6:25, pushing 6:30. You've been there longer than you have to. He's not ready. He should have had all of his things ready. If he needs to reschedule an appointment, tell him that and then go. And tell him that, hey man, as a courtesy, I'm just going to call the office so that they don't book you, because if I have to come back, if the notary has to come back out and make a second run, then they will charge you again. Full price too, by the way, because he didn't cancel his appointment outside of the 1 hour window, which is again why we have that disclosure. If you cancel an appointment outside of the 1 hour window, then you are entitled to a full refund. If you cancel an appointment inside of the 1 hour window, then you are entitled to your refund minus the $50 service charge, because the notary is already on their way. And I have to pay the notary. I'll have to pay the notary $25, which is our agreement, and then I keep $25. That's where the $50 go. That's the $50 convenience fee charge. 25 goes to the notary for going out there for driving, and then 25 goes to me for you playing games and not being ready. So this guy, he would have been subject to no refund. But in order to make it appear as if you are doing him a favor, again, tell him that you'll contact the office on his behalf, because you can now speak to the manager or the supervisor and tell them that, hey man, don't charge them. I'm just going to have them reschedule the appointment. And then I said, leave if you have to. All right, you got that? So next, he responded. Notary responded and says, "Well, it looks like they have two witnesses. At least they're waiting on the second one." So now, what does that mean? That means he's waiting longer than he has to. He's in some stranger's house, sitting on somebody's smelly couch in their living room, waiting for this guy to find his documents, or waiting for him to find his ID. And I say, okay, keep me updated. If you have to go, just let me know. And I want to give the notary reassurance that it's okay to walk out on this appointment. It's not your fault. We have this process in place if we need to go back out there and do it. It was already late. It was already beyond 6:30, 7 o'clock, 6:45. It may not be 7 o'clock, maybe 6:45. And then, I just want to make sure that I have his back. I want to make sure that the notary knows that they can leave if they have to. And he responds, okay. And then he says he's done, So kudos to him. He got it done. He stuck around. He waited for the guy to find his driver's license, or his second witness to go. And then I just respond with a congratulatory response. Text message says, way to go. How was it? And look at this. 7 o'clock. This thing was over an hour long. This was a 10-minute appointment that turned into an hour and 5 minutes. Long, he says. The document said if it has two witnesses, it doesn't need a notary, but he wanted to get the signature notarized anyway. And that sounds right. That sounds about right. When I first took the call for this appointment, that's I'm not interrogating, I'm not questioning these clients. Who, what, where is what I 60, who, what, where. And in that process, the client, if they feel like they want to reveal more information about the context of the document and the situation, then they can go ahead and do that. And that's what he did. That's what you'll find most people will do. When you just stick to the same questions: who signed a document, what type of identification do they have, where do you need us to meet you, or where do you live, people will tell you, hey man, this is a little bit of background. Here's some details about the situation, what's going on. And that's what he did. That's why I know that the mother was getting sick, the mother was wanting to transfer the property, and he just drafted up a document. Didn't need to be notarized. But because people, they want to deal with legal, terms, and they want to pretend like they're lawyers, they don't want to pay lawyers. They don't want to pay the lawyers, but they want to pretend as if they want to play lawyers. They don't want to pay lawyers, but they want to play lawyers. They don't actually want to be lawyers, but they just want to pretend as if they know the law and that getting something notarized is going to make something legal. All right. So this document that he drafted up did not need to be notarized. He could have done it with just two witnesses. A document that's similar to that you might come across is a will. In California, it does not need to be notarized. A will just needs two witnesses. And even then, most people will get their signature notarized because it does add an extra layer of verification, which is good. And I said, I responded, I just said smart. It is smart. I think it is a good idea for anything that gets signed to get notarized because you can always say that, well, that wasn't me. I didn't know. I don't know whose signature that is. It looks like mine, but it was. Is it notarized? And if the answer is no, then how can you verify that I was in fact that person who signed this? You can't. The only way you could do it it without unquestionably is to get something notarized, and most people understand that. Most people understand that. But do you see why it's so important for you to separate yourself from the actual notary appointment and the owner? Well, what you're seeing here can be done with one person, and it was born out of being done with one person. But when you come across these situations where people, trust me, this will happen. Is if it hasn't happened yet, then that is just a matter of time. But when you come across some situation where you now have to answer a question that you may not feel comfortable answering, and you never want to reveal that you're the owner, always remove yourself. Say, hey, give me a second. I'm going to step outside and call the main office, or I'm going to call my boss, or I'm going to call the supervisor and get the answer for you. Tiger likes to do it. He'll say, "Hey man, put him on speaker and do it in front of him," which I think is really cool because it's less secretive. But me, if you don't have anybody to call, just remove yourself out and go outside and have a private conversation. And I tell all of my notaries that do not answer anything. Don't say a word. Don't say nothing because of the reasons why limited liability. And you always want to make sure that you always want to give the appearance that you have some backup. You always want to have the appearance that this is not a one person operation. This is a big company, and none of these decisions are you. So don't take it personal. These principles, however wild and out there that they may seem, these principles will save you in the situation where you find yourself with a customer who is unsatisfied. They even might be irate. And you always want to protect yourself. You want to make it seem like it's not you. You don't want somebody to take anything out on you. Make Put it on the company. Whether it's whether there is no company and you are the company. All right, always make it seem, give it the appearance that you have the support of an entire organization behind you and that you are not the one who's making the decisions. That's why we don't answer the phone with I. We don't say I over the phone. We always say we. And that's the reason why you don't name your company after you. You name it after a big company so that you can create some separation between yourself and the company. See, these are like the beginner core step that is going to separate you from all. It's going to make sure that you have a sustainable long-term company. It's just really going to create the difference between you and everybody else. And this is why you're going to stand out. These lessons will definitely take you a long way. Let me know if you've ever had a situation where you needed to create some separation between yourself and the company, or there was a question that came up and you made a mistake and you answered the question, right? And what did you learn from that? So you can leave your comments below and we'll definitely respond. And let's have a conversation. Let's have a discussion about how to protect your business and making sure that it goes much further than you ever expected. All right, guys, thanks for showing up to the operating room.